Life Check Yourself with Lorna Poole. Money, freedom, and reinventing your wealth. How to build financial security on your own terms. Welcome to Life Check Yourself. Super fun combo today. Do you care about money? Who the hell doesn't? We're going to talk about money. I was going to say, I hate to say old friend because then it implies we're both old, but a friend I have known for so long, and I am so glad that we got reconnected recently. You are going to love what Lorna Poole has to say about money. She is a wealth certified coach supporting established female coaches to start their investment journey, build assets to create true wealth and financial freedom, putting your money to work so that you can secure your future and live life fully on your own terms. And obviously, I'm all about living life on your own terms. So I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Marnie.
So I actually never asked you this when we've been talking in the last 6 months or so. When I first met you, you lived in America, you were single, you were like, I'm going to do dating coaching. And then you couldn't stay in America. You were so upset because I remember you had a whole vision for your life and it got completely, the universe had a different plan and you went back home to Ireland. Right?
Yeah.
Okay,
that's
good.
Correct.
I was like, I gotta make sure I get these accents right. And everything in your life changed for you, didn't happen to you. So how did you pivot into wealth coaching and helping women create their financial future?
I love this question because there's two reasons to it. The first big one was when I got home, my father got very sick, and my father was a very strong person. He just does, nothing knocks him down. And when he got sick, so I arrived home in 2014, January 2014, and he actually passed away June 2014. And when we were growing up, he was all about money, money doesn't grow on trees, all this kind of thing. And, make sure you set yourself up securely for the future and all that. And when he passed away, there was actually nothing in place for my mother. And I realized from that a lot of people end up in this situation. And only for unfortunately, but fortunately, an uncle passed away 2 months later that my mum gets sorted, but that was by accident. And what I realized off the back of that is a lot of women pass this area of their life off, or they go through a divorce, or they're a single parent at the school, or they're building their business to 7 figures or 6 figures, and they're focusing on the income. And I noticed that people put this on the back burner, and my passion around it was to share to women that you get to be financially independent, you get to have a 7-figure net worth, how important it is to secure your future, that it's possible to live life on your terms. And I pivoted. But I also remember a mentor telling me at the time that that's not what I wanted to do. And I gave my power away to someone else. And it took me a year or two later before I actually did pivot. So, I always wanted to teach around money. I came out as a fresh bean out of coaching, not really knowing who I was or what I was
right.
about. And then I stepped into my power and jumped. Yeah.
I just love this story because I just interviewed someone else who's an executive coach in a corporate setting. And we were talking about how we have this story that I'm going to do this one thing and that's what I'm going to do. And people are saying, oh, you're crazy to want to do that, or you're crazy to want to pivot, or right. And we have to listen to what it is that we're meant to do. And I love that your father, he didn't know that he was going to leave a legacy of really actually what he meant, not what he did, but what he meant and wished for you, and that you were able to do that. And that's so incredibly powerful and beautiful. So someone who's listening, because so in my coaching, we always get to this point when we're designing your life where people look at their money, because that is a big thing. You know, you can't live life on your own terms unless you know what those terms are. And shockingly, so many people are like, I don't know, you know, I don't know what I have. I don't know if it will last. I don't really look at it. Or they're in a relationship for a long time and they're like, I don't know, my partner, da da da, and he's this and I'm that. So what's the first step to someone who's like, I don't know, or it's too late for me to start creating wealth?
I just want to talk to what you said first, which is, like, I've always lived my life the way I wanted to live. And I think the first, like when you were sharing there about, you know, living your best life and what that looks like, and then having the money to support that, where there's a will, there's always a way. And I think your first breakthrough with money is understanding that you get to have a breakthrough with money. And if you have this lofty dream to go travel the world or whatever that is, your money gets to support you, and you get to look at who you get to be to do that. But if you're older and you're looking at creating wealth and all that, what I would say to that is understand that you can start, like, you can start at any stage, right? Knowing that you are not securing your future unless you're putting your money to work, no matter what age or where you're at or whatever. Like, income comes in as long as you're actively working. When you're putting your money to work, that money works with or without you. And that's essential. Whether you're aiming to be financially free early or not, that is essential. And if you want to live your best life, how you take care of your money is a big piece of that.
And I love those words. How do you take care of your money? Are you a steward with your money, and not ignoring it? Because I think what people do is they just sometimes ignore it. They're oversaving or they're overspending, but they're ignoring. So what are some of that, when you think about like what ways that someone can start to look at this from an empowered place and not like a place of fear or lack? What do you say to the women that work with you?
So whenever anybody starts their wealth journey, we got to look at where you at right now. So I always say, be in truth where you are with your money. Be in your absolute truth. So what I mean by that is some people will come along and be like, well, I make this much. I'm in debt to this, but that's not really a debt there. That's not really one.
What kind of things are not really a debt? Is that like a mortgage, or what do people think not really a debt is?
They're not really in truth with their representation of where their money actually is right now. They hide their expenses, or they hide their liabilities, or they're hiding that their money that they want to support them, their assets are not where they need it to be as well. So the first thing is, like, look under the bonnet of a car, like what is really going on truthfully with you, with your money, and you've got to be in truth with that. An inner truth as well as a practical black and white numbers. Where am I actually at with my money? So people can say, oh, well, financing my car, okay, that's a liability, for example, but I paid a mentor 10,000 and that's not, you know. So understanding, well, what is anytime you owe money beyond, so if you're still using it and you're owing money on that is a liability. So when you're creating wealth, there's kind of four kind of sections, right? There's money coming in, your income, there's your expenses, there's your liability and assets. And what creates wealth is how you work with this, okay? So when it comes to taking care of your money, just to kind of give you a juicy tip, is most people are paying their bills and then themselves, right? Wealthy people are the opposite. They pay themselves. They structure their money to support the life they want to live. They're putting their savings, if you're a business owner, your tax, your income, and then you're paying your expenses. Like another juicy tip is having your expenses down to 50% of your income. So that kind of shocks people when they hear it originally, right? Because most people are living, they're either breaking, I always say you've only 3 habits with money, which is you've either wealthy habits with money, you're breaking even, or you're spending more than you have, right? So you're always either in one of those 3 categories, and you can flow in and out of all 3 of them, especially if you're an entrepreneur and a variable income and all the things, right? That goes on with that. So noticing how you take care of your money, noticing what is a wealthy life to you, because we get to direct our money. If we're not taking control of our money's taking control of us.
Ooh, say more about that. What does it look like when your money is taking control of you?
You don't know where it's going. You're living paycheck to paycheck. It's just leaking everywhere.
Right.
Financial freedom comes from a framework. I always call it your wealth system.
Okay.
So your wealth system is when you know, like what you teach, Marnie, about how you teach people to live their best life and live their life on their terms. So if you know what that is, then you get to look at, how do I support that? So when you're managing your money well, you're thinking, well, what are my priorities? What lights me up inside? What's important to me? How do I get to direct my money to support that 10 out of 10 life that I want to live? Okay. And when you come from that space, it's amazing where you can free up money.
Interesting. So when you're working with someone and they start to actually look at like what does blow my hair back in my terms, right? Like what is the expression of my soul in how I'm choosing to spend my money? Where are the gaps? Like where are people like, their money is not free. They're like, whoa.
And that's a great question to ask yourself, is where do I not feel free? So where's money leaking? Subscriptions. Like I had one client who bought herself a new electric car, wants to be telling you like their values, telling you I want to be financially free, but the car is costing him $1,500 per month and the insurance to it is over $500, and she's putting $150 towards her financial freedom, like dollars, right? Like there's a disconnect there. Okay, so it can be lifestyle creep, I always say live your best life, live your wealthy life. But what is wealthy to you? Because sometimes we get sucked into the keeping up with the Joneses. So notice what is wealthy to you. From my experience of working with people, most people want time freedom, family, friends, travel. It's not always the yacht in Morocco, for example, right?
Right.
So noticing like subscriptions are a biggie. I'm trying to think of others straight off my head. Yeah, the car, things like that. Like what
about things like so when I did this, so when my husband and I like left Los Angeles and we're like, we're gonna live in an RV and I really looked at like what is essential, and I realized essential doesn't mean minimal. It means what is like essential to me. Yeah. And in my business, I noticed as an entrepreneur, so if anyone's an entrepreneur or coach or consultant who's listening to this, especially like the systems and subscriptions for your business, because sometimes people think, just go in your settings and look at your apps and what are you not using? I mean, that's like a basic one, right? Like getting it down to like the 3 you actually use. But what I realized is in all the different evolutions of my business, like I had the self-seminar from like a million years ago, or some coach just emailed me and said, oh, I just realized I still have Kajabi, which is a platform. I don't use that anymore, but there's all these people who I said, here you get access to this forever. So I put it in a Google Doc. I got rid of Kajabi. Here's your stuff, right? And so there's things that you have that you used to use that you didn't keep analyzing as you're going through your expenses and things like that. So I think as a business owner, for me, my husband went through everything. He was like, what the hell is this? Do you use this anymore? I was like, I don't, and I didn't, my business had gotten so big, I didn't even know.
Yeah. I think that's huge. What you brought up is it's important as a business owner to review your systems, your team, all that, because there are things in there that are absolutely sucking your money. And the difference between monthly and annual, and as you say, Kajabi or System.io, both do the same things. You can get, and as you said, you're offering lifetime access, and then you're no longer using the platform, but you're leaving. So reviewing your money, like one of the big things is having money dates every month, having money dates every quarter, and having money dates every annual. And another great big tip is people can be really great in their personal, and then they have a whole different perhaps a dysfunction with money in their business. So notice if you're doing that you're like, oh, but my business needs it, right? And you have a totally different rule around money, because wealth is created from having a profitable business. I want to talk about that as well. And knowing the difference between sales revenue and cash in the bank. So that's really important as well, because if your business is not working, how is it going to support you to create the wealth? Because people don't realize that wealth is created from your money leaving your bank account. Most people mindset is like bring in more money, but it's actually what you do with the money you have is the biggest breakthrough at creating wealth.
Meaning that you're saving it.
Meaning that
you're not saving it, like putting it
to work.
Putting it to work and not spending it on lattes.
Whatever lights you up. I don't believe in restricting yourself.
Right.
But you can be very savvy with how you take care of your money. And what most people are doing is putting the wealth on the back burner. Oh, when my money's at a certain place, then I'll go learn this investing thing, right? No, you get to do that now, because there's 3 factors that support wealth creation. One is the amount you're putting towards it, the time, wealth needs time to compound, and also the rate that money's working for you. So it's really important. The sooner it's like that analogy that when do you plant a tree? Like yesterday, right?
Right.
No matter where you are, it's like the sooner you get going, the better. And the sooner you allow that money to compound. Most people's businesses are like another baby, right? But you created that business to have time, choice, and freedom, and now you have this big animal taking over your life. Go create the freedom. Right?
That was me. It's so funny. I wrote this Substack and I just published it this morning that we were talking about before we hit record. But that was me. I literally was like, okay, this is what everyone says to do. You do this thing, and then you scale this, and then you get more team, and then you get this, and then you buy this, and you get this mentor, and blah, 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 right? And I did all that. And I just remember being like, Lorna, I was like, everyone on my team is making more money than I am. Like, they're getting a paycheck. No matter what happens, I pay them. But over time, my take home was getting smaller and smaller and smaller, not to mention giving me a literal heart attack. And it was crazy. And what's interesting, and I would love for you to talk about this is, and I'm kind of trying to get back there, is when I first started my business and it was small-ish to maybe even medium-ish, was when I actually accumulated the most wealth.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. Because I was like, oh, wow, look, there's, I'm paying myself first. I can actually take my money and put it to work for me. So there's this time where it's like all of a sudden it got like this promise of this like fantasy or something was like more. And I was taking home less. How do you know? What can people learn from my mistake? How do we avoid that? Is it possible to avoid that? Or is that just the lesson we have to learn sometime?
I'll say a couple of things to that is there's an illusion out there that more money gives you more freedom, but it's not necessarily the income, the big income that gets you there. It really is, what are you doing that money when it comes into your bank account? It also is that no matter what going on. I would even say to somebody, even if you're point blank broke, you pay yourself first. And that, like, I remember having a client who says, "Oh, I get it. I treat myself like a bill." So if you had treated yourself like a team member that you were paying
Yes.
good money towards, and that becomes first before everybody else, it really is a mindset shift. I'll share this little story to kind of bring it across. Is when I went to create my wealth, like start the journey of paying myself first, that kind of very simple, first rule. I had parked my first business, the dating business, right, that we talked about. I had a baby. I was on maternity leave. COVID had hit. I didn't know where the money was going to come in. Was starting up my money side of things. But I made it a priority, and I've always paid myself first, no matter what storm came at me around money. And I think that's the biggest breakthrough. Don't fall for the illusion that more money is going to like suddenly appear, and then you're just suddenly going to change your behavior with it. A lot of money is behavioral and mindset. So it's making that a priority right now, no matter where you're at with your money, is going to make all the difference. And if that's very ingrained in you, as you scale, you'll be able to go with it. Another big piece of that is knowing what your financial freedom number is. Because
right.
if you know that, so one of the things I teach is, what is my financial freedom number? What is my timeline? And what is the amount I get to put towards it to make that happen? So if you know what that is, you know what your target is per month that you get to put towards that to actually hit that financial freedom number. And that gives you reassurance. Okay, so if I put 1,000 per month or 2,500, whatever it is, or 500, depending on the life you want to live, oh my God, that means if I do that for 10 years, I'm financially free. Like, how powerful is that? So I think that's huge to say. It really is just making that very decisive decision that I get to be first.
I was so not told this when I was younger. It was like, horrified that my parents or no one told me that. I just didn't learn it in school. I just didn't learn it, right? And so from the minute my kids, I'll never forget this. We were on a trip in Barcelona, and I think my middle daughter was maybe 15 or 16. And she was like, "Can you explain like investments to me?" And I was like, yes, right? And I look at them now, and they're in their 20s and they're saving, right? So by the time they're 58, they're going to be like so fine, hopefully. But we don't talk about this, and it's such an important thing. And I didn't even start working until I was in my mid 40s, because I was like divorced and relying on someone else. And so sometimes I go, damn, I wish I had had 20 more years, right? I'd be in a very different place. And then also, like, it's of course not too late, right? Because I started my first business when I was 42. So I think the thing is, you have to make that decision. So let me ask you another question. I could also talk to you for hours. When I was going through all this stuff, like, I got divorced, I was married to this guy that made a lot of money, but was really bad with money. So he had made a shit ton of money. When we got divorced, like, all I got left was like $60,000, which is insane. Like, he had won $1 million in a lawsuit, but I just trusted him, and he was like, blah, 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 do whatever you want. And so starting from like zero, what is the bet if you have debt? So I was all about like Dave Ramsey, debt snowball. I mean, I didn't really know what to do to get out of debt. How do you recommend people start if they are saying, okay, I'm going to start now. I have some debt, but I also have my job, or I also have a business, and I'm going to pay myself first. What are some like actual first steps that you need to take in today's world? Because I know I don't know if Dave Ramsey is even still relevant, but what do you recommend people do?
So the problem with debt, I always say for debt and income, is people say to themselves, when I clear my debt, then I'll go create my wealth. Okay. And if you've had debt, it's sort of a way of being. Okay. So wealth is a way of being. So you got to develop your way of being with wealth And I always say debt is past decisions, really. They're past choices, okay? So you always put your debt into a debt plan, like the snowball that Dave Ramsey teaches. Do that, set it up, but you get going on your wealth. And you want to treat yourself.
That's a really just big distinction. Because what you just said is you don't wait till it's done. You go, okay, $500 to my debt, $500 to my wealth.
Yeah. Because what changes somebody's circumstances is their thinking about money, their behavior with money. It's a behavior. Wealth is a way of being. So when you operate from there, embody that, and that's who you are, and that's how you show up, and your actions with your money are matching that, of course you're going to be wealthy. And we create what we focus on. So if you're focusing on the wealth, you're going to create the wealth, because all it's about is bridging the gap, and then knowing what to invest in, your timeline, your financial freedom number. You get to bridge the gap. And someone like you, Marnie, or anybody that has had a successful, you know how to make things happen, so you get to make it happen here. Because you know this, Marnie, a lot of creating the life you desire is about that inner decision, and then being the person that gets to make that a reality for yourself. So I think that's big to say as well.
So you are paying yourself your
you asked me what to do first. Yeah.
And then you're paying off a little bit of your debt, like incrementally, like auto payment or whatever it is.
So I want to say this. You want to treat yourself like the electricity bill. Like you're paying that every month, no matter what. Okay? Yeah. So what are the first steps? The first steps is, no matter what kind of, can I use it?
So you can swear here, yes, for sure.
no matter what kind of a shit show your money is, you pay yourself first, because it's developing that wealthy habit that is going to get you there. You put your debt into a plan. So one of the big things you can do is one of the most straightforward way to get going on your investment journey is invest in index trackers.
Okay.
Because
explain that.
The reason why they are so loved is because they're pretty bomb-proof. They're self-cleansing. They're low fees. And somebody who doesn't have a lot of time, they don't take a lot to manage. And it's a very good way that you can be diversified by asset class, by sector, geographically around the world. And then as your knowledge develops, you can do things like direct shares, you can do property, if you want to go, and understanding investing as well. So I'll just share this with you. I'll just share a little bit of it. I always say, so the way I coin it, I always say, instead of saying pay yourself first, I would say pay your assets first. So I think that's a big takeaway is pay your assets first. Well, what is an asset? It's anything that causes wealth, money to flow into your life in terms of increased income or value that will be able to support your desired lifestyle. And there's 5 main asset classes you need to be in. So equity, real estate, gold, fixed income, and cash. And index trackers are a good way to put all that in place very quickly. Okay. And then if your knowledge grows around wealth, you can do more. So index trackers, I always call them like the foundation. And then there's different levels of wealth and different levels of risk. So this is a very good way to put in a foundation. Like you can be financially free on index trackers alone. But just to kind of, another thing about investing that's really important to know is having a robust portfolio. So what that means is people tend to invest because Joe down the road told them, oh, I had this with real estate and I don't like stocks and shares because this happened to me, whatever. So notice you always keep your emotions out of investing. Okay. It's about having a robust structure. So when you're investing really smartly, there's terms called intangible and tangible assets. So the likes of a house is what they would call a tangible asset. It would take 6 months to 1 year to sell, and then you'd get cash from it. Intangible would be like you could click a computer, so you're investing in stocks and shares. You click a computer to turn into cash. So if you're investing in a healthy way, you're following a very good structure strategy of how you're going about your money, and you want to have the equity, the real estate, the gold, the fixed income, and cash. So there's tangible, intangible. Then you have those 5 asset class, and then you get to build from there. So to start off is pay yourself first, put it into a good online platform. So if you live in the States, something like Charles Schwab or whatever, knowing the different accounts. So ideally, if you're creating wealth as well, and you have this in the States, you want to be in your tax-deferred, tax-free, and discretionary. Okay? So your tax-deferred is like your 401k, your tax-free is your Roth IRA, and then discretionary, because they play 3 different roles in your creating financial freedom. The discretionary allows you to access the money at any time, but it's not tax protected. The tax-free is it supports your money to grow in a tax protected environment. And same with the tax deferred. The thing with the tax deferred is the government decides, and they're changing the age for people of when you can access it. So it's knowing these kind of things about creating your wealth is what's going to get you there.
I love
So that's
this.
a big answer.
The bottom line
question.
is you have to pay attention to it. Like, but it's really important because, and I know some people, their like head might be spinning and they're like, it's our responsibility as women. I was that girl. Like, I used to joke, like, I want to go on Oprah just so she can like ask me like, what's the biggest thing you learned after getting divorced at 38? It was like, I did not take responsibility for anything because I was from the generation that you just got married and someone else was going to do that. So it's our responsibility to take action on this. And I was $100,000 in debt, when I started my business, and I had to figure out how to pay that, how to, also pay for my kids' school, all those things that I did. And I'm sharing that from a place of like hoping inspire someone. Like if you're like, Marnie, like, I'm going to be paying this debt out for the rest of my year. Or some people go, oh, my debt is so much that like, there's no way I'm going to do it. So I'm just going to keep on that train and pay off a couple thousand and spend a couple thousand. And you don't want to end up, I told my financial advisor, I was like something about, oh good, I don't have to eat cat food. He's like, cat food? And I was like, yeah, didn't you know that's what women in their 50s and 60s worry about? Like, I'm going to have to eat cat food when I'm old. We don't have to eat cat food.
But I think it's huge what you shared, because so many people end up in this situation. And I remember when my business made its first big month or whatever, and how like the rose tinted glasses come on and you're like, oh, I'll go get this and I'll go do that or whatever. The thing about creating wealth as well, it's not a high, it's not a dopamine hit. So it is really the steady, that kind of steady person gets there the quickest. So I think that's big to share as well. And I really love what you shared about like us as women, we get to take care of our own money. We know what to do with it, and we get to have a 10 out of 10 pinch me life with our money fully supporting me and be secure for the future. And that's what I'm here to share.
Yeah. And if you don't know how to do it, then it's our responsibility to get help, right? To like hire a mentor, to have someone teach you. Because one thing I've learned in my journey over the last 5 years, especially, is like, I'm capable and I can do hard shit. And that means you guys can do hard shit who's listening, because, I'm a writing person. I don't do numbers and all that stuff. Right. And every time my brain just goes, details, too hard. I'm like, you can do hard shit. And ask questions too, right? Like, do you find that so many people, so many women you talk to are almost like embarrassed that they have to ask, well, I don't know what an index tracker is, and you explain these different kinds of things. Like, it's okay to ask and not know.
It's okay to ask and not know, and it's okay not to be good at maths, because I sucked at maths. I don't like numbers. I didn't come from a financial background, and that's why I know you can do it also. And I always say when people are learning this, like, the more you hear it over and over again, the financial industry makes it complicated, but it's actually quite simple.
I love that. That's amazing. This hopefully helps so many women to get started, to pay close attention, to take it to the next level, to ask for help, to believe in themselves and believe what is possible. I think the one thing I really want to highlight is you said, being in debt and being wealthy is our identities, right? And we don't want to let what is or what was those past decisions impact how we're going to live the rest of our life, and that it's not too late to have that money date with yourself, with someone like Lorna, with whoever, and be like, okay, I'm going to stop hiding. I'm going to stop avoiding. I want to create something. And it takes time. One last thing I want to say is, like, you were saying it's not a dopamine hit. And since we were both formerly exclusively dating coaches, that's what I always said about when you meet the right guy, right? Like, the bad guy is usually the dopamine hit, the like, oh my God, I got to have it, right? We don't want that feeling when we're looking for a partner necessarily. It might be boring at first. It might just feel really easy. It might feel very like slow and steady wins the race. Same thing in money.
Same thing with money. 100%. Yeah.
I love it. Don't date the bad boy of money. Lorna, I know, well, first of all, you've just been such a great support for me, and I just want to pay it forward. I know that you have, and we're going to have this in the show notes, but can you just explain the financial freedom bundle that you're giving anyone who's listening to this? I would really recommend for you to, just as an act of like life checking yourself, you're listening to this podcast, to like take a step and just peek under the bonnet, as Lorna said, which is the hood for all of us Americans.
Oh yeah.
What's in the financial freedom bundle?
Hood, exactly. I should know the lingo.
No, that's fine. I love the bonnet. I mean, I'm married to a Brit.
The financial freedom bundle. What's in there? It's a toolkit of resources that support you to understand how to get going, creating your wealth and financial freedom. There's videos, there's checklists in there. There's the time to freedom sheet where you can go check out, well, what is my financial freedom number and how long will it take me to get there? So it's quite valuable. It's usually a paid product. So go check that out. You'll really get a lot from it.
Yay! I love that. I'm all about empowering women and being badasses, because here's the thing. When you become a badass in your own life and you take responsibility and you start on this path, you're going to inspire someone else, whether it's your kids, your nieces, other women like you, to really live life on your own terms and figure out what that means in a way that's a replication or representation of like really your soul and not what everyone else is doing. Right. So I love that. Thank you, Lorna. Ladies, you can always find me, Marnie Batista _ on Instagram, Marnie Batista on Facebook. Go to marniebatista.com for more fun for you, resources, tools. But in the meantime, whatever you do, remember, in always and always, life check yourself. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Hey, thanks for tuning in today. Listen, if you're feeling stuck, I want you to know you're not alone, and you don't have to settle for it. I've created a free quiz to help you pinpoint what's draining your energy and exactly how you can fix it. So head over to decodeyourdestinyquiz.com and take the 60-second quiz right now. That's decodeyourdestinyquiz.com. And if you're ready to dive deeper, you can book a free no-obligation consultation at marnibatista.com/private coaching. That's Marni, M-A-R-N-I, Batista, B-A-T-T-I-S, as in Sam, T-A.com/private coaching, all one word. Let's take the first step to creating a life you love on your terms. I'm Marni, and I'll see you next time.